Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today the topic which we are going to continue is about the transmission lines. In the previous lecture we have studied about the conductor and various other parameters that can be used across a transmission line, right? So in this case we will discuss about the rest of all the parameters, right? In previous lecture we have studied about the conductance, that why we neglect the effect of conductance. So after neglecting conductance we have three more parameters that we will study, not in so much depth, but we will take the basic concepts of all three parameters. Specifically inductance will be covered in the upcoming lectures. Okay, so considering the effect of resistance, we can say that the resistance across a transmission line conductor is the most important cause of power loss in a transmission line, right? The term resistance, unless specifically qualified, means effective resistance, right? The effective resistance of a conductor is given by the relation that R is equal to power loss in a conductor divided by I square. As you know that P is always represented by VI, and according to Ohm's law it is V is equal to IR. Therefore placing these values into P is equal to VI, we can get the value of R, which is power loss in a conductor divided by I square. Okay, the effective resistance is equal to the DC resistance of the conductor only if the distribution of current throughout the conductor is uniform. So as you know that there are the four parameters which can be used across the conductor. These four parameters include resistance, inductance, capacitance and conductance, right? Therefore uh, after observing all these four parameters, we can trace the different values, specifically the values of resistance. So proceeding on to it, that how we can calculate these values, we consider these two diagrams. In these two diagrams we can be able to know that in the diagram on the left hand side, which is the uniform distribution of parameters, means the actual distribution in the transmission lines, it can be shown that the lines, if I assume that the two lines of each color are representing one parameter, means the two lines of brown color are representing the resistance across a transmission line. Therefore we can watch that the all the parameters are having uniformity across the transmission line, means they are not lumped, they are not collected at a single place, right? These are uniformly distributed across this transmission line, where we have this the where we have this cross section area of the cylinder, which is labeled here, as well as length of this conductor or transmission line is represented by L, and we have the electric flux across this conductor, which is represented by phi. Okay, therefore considering this, uh, whenever moving on to the right side diagram, we can be able to get the point that whenever we do the computations or we do the calculations, it is very much clear that all the parameters, all the four parameters are distributed across a transmission line in the uniform way, right? But whenever we do the computations or calculations, we consider these parameters across a transmission line in the form as I have shown in the figure on the right hand side, right? We assume that the resistance of the transmission line is just like in a specific portion, and it is not mixed with the conductance, inductance or capacitance, right? It means that we will just calculate for the value of a resistance, right? Therefore considering this fact, we can say that the value of resistance can be given by the formula resistance is equal to rho L over A, or R naught that is DC resistance, it can also be given by the formula L over sigma A, right, where this rho represents the resistivity of the conductor, right. L is the length of the conductor and sigma is the conductivity across this conductor. Basically, conductivity is the reciprocal of resistivity. Due to being the reciprocal of of resistivity, it will come into the denominator, right. And likewise, we have this A is representing the cross sectional area of the cylinder, which I have already told you in the previous slide. Here, this is basically the cross sectional area. Here is the length of this conductor, and here are the electric lines of forces, and this one is flux. Okay, so now, considering this, we can say that practically several different sets of units are used in the calculation of resistance, right. Whenever we calculate the resistance, there are several different sets which vary from country to country, or from continent to continent, or from choice of the person, from specific areas or essentialities or requirements. Being dependent on the requirements, we can calculate with the help of different parameters, right, like parameters or units, right. So in the SI units, we can explain that length is always measured in meters, whereas area is in square meters, and this resistivity is in ohm meters, right. Basically, why we take this ohm meters? Because we consider the per unit length. Okay, this concept I will describe it later on in this slide. Okay, whereas whenever we consider the power systems in the United States, we always take the rho in ohm circular mils per foot, right. uh, Likewise, length L is represented in feet, whereas area is measured in circular mils, right. I repeat that resistivity is ohm in ohm circular mils per foot, right. Then length is represented in feet, whereas area is measured in circular mils. Therefore, after getting this, we can say that resistance of a conductor at any temperature may be determined by R2 divided by R1 equal to T naught plus T2 divided by T naught plus T1, right. Basically, if there is a conductor that is conducting power over a temperature T1, and afterwards this temperature is changed to T2, then its resistance on T1 will be different as compared to its resistance on T2, right. Therefore, in this case, the resistance on T1 is represented by R1, whereas the other one, the resistance on the conductor resistance on temperature T2 is taken as R2, right, whereas T1 and T2 both are representing the conductor temperatures, and they are measured in degrees Celsius, right. And afterward, we can know the value of T naught. T naught is basically a constant that is dependent on the conducting material. Like if we consider the annealed copper, it has the different parametric values as compared to the hard drawn copper or hard drawn aluminium, right. Here I have mentioned some values, that 234.5 is the value for the annealed copper, right, and 241 is the value of T naught for the hard drawn copper, and likewise 228 is basically the value for hard drawn aluminium over for the T value of T naught, right. The phenomena by which the alternating current tends to flow in the outer layer of current of the conductor is called as skin effect, right. What is skin effect? The phenomena by which an alternating current tends to flow in the outer layer of a conductor, this is called as skin effect, right. previously we have talked about corona, right? Corona is, how corona is produced? It is basically produced due to the effect of ionization in the air, which is basically uh, due to the amount of alternating current that is flowing inside the outer layer of the conductor, right? Therefore skin effect is somehow responsible for producing this corona effect, but not fully it is responsible for producing the corona effect, but up to some extent, right? The skin effect is a function of conductor size, then frequency, and the relative resistance of the conductor material. It means that if there is conductor size different is large, then the skin effect will be large, because the amount of current flowing in the outer layer will get increased, right? And if the value of this conductor size is smaller, then the skin effect will get smaller, right? Likewise, for values of frequency and the relative resistance of the conducting material, the skin effect will keeps on changing, right? Therefore, considering this, now moving on to the inductor or inductance. Basically, uh, inductance, considering the effect of inductance in electromagnetism and electronics, inductance is the tendency of an electric conductor to oppose a change in the electric current flowing through it, right? Means if there is a smaller if there is an equipment in which there is an inductor installed, then uh, the property of inductor is to store the current, right? It has stored some of the current. Whenever the power supply is cut off or the power supply is turned off, then the current stored in the inductor will start discharging, right? It will start flowing, and the inductor will not be getting charged. Therefore this discharging will result in the in bringing the inductor up to zero current, right? Therefore we can say that whenever a change means whenever the switch is turned off or a power supply is cut off, then inductor produces the current and the stored current in order to oppose the change that has been occurred due to turning off the switch or by cutting off the power. And by producing this current, they oppose the change in the electric current that is flowing through this circuit, right? It means now it means that whenever the electric flux is increased, the electric lines of forces also increased, right? As we can see from this diagram, that with there is flux that is moving on, and if we consider that these lines are representing not the parameters in this case but the electric lines of forces, therefore we can say that the more the electric flux, that more the electric lines of forces or the current is passing through a conductor, more will be the effect of flux, right? Then when we consider this condition, then we can say that electric flux is directly proportional to the electric current that is flowing through a conductor. By considering this, we can say that there will the resultant line will be a straight one. How? As we increase the electric flux, the current will also increase. Here we have taken it here we have taken the current on the x-axis because it is an independent quantity, whereas the electric flux changes when the line of electric lines of forces are changing. Therefore flux is basically a dependent quantity, so we have taken it onto the y-axis, and as a result, when the electric lines of forces or the current gets increased, it will definitely increase the electric flux. That will result in a straight line that is moving from this uh, as a resultant line, right? The slope of this line will be taken as inductance, and the expression uh, which I have told you previously, that particular expression of phi, in which I have narrated that phi is directly proportional to I, means electric flux is directly proportional to the flowing current, which it will be changed with the sign of equality, where L will be the constant value, the inductance will be the constant value, right? Therefore, this term will become, when the sign of proportionality is changed with the constant and as well as the equivalent sign, then it will become phi is equal to Li, means to say the electric flux will be equal to the product of inductance and current. Okay, therefore this was very basic definition of the inductance. Now we will move on to the capacitance, because I will go through the inductance in the very detailed manners into the upcoming lectures. Now we have taken this phenomenon of capacitance in the transmission line. By undertaking this phenomena of capacitance, first of all we consider a three-phase line, right? This is basically a three-phase line in which line A, line B and line C are connected, and across these lines there are several capacitors that are forming a structure. We will go through it in detail. But let me first elaborate what is a capacitor. A capacitor is a device that stores the electric energy in an electric field, right? This is basically a passive electronic component having the two terminals. Basically, the values of these capacitance is depending on the geometry of the currents of the conductors, right? Basically, if we can say, then the capacitor is basically a structure in which the two capacitors are separated by using an insulator in between them, right? If the two conductors are separated by using an insulator, then we can call them a capacitor. But a condition is applied over there, that if the phenomena of charging and discharging occurs, then we will consider that this particular device, these two that particular structure of two conductors separated by by an insulator, will be called as a capacitor. But if the process of charging and discharging is not occurred, then we will not consider these two capacitors which are separated by an insulator as a capacitor, right? Therefore, now moving on to this point which I have left, that we have the three, basically we have the three lines which are A, B and C. Therefore, here we have CAG, CBG and CCG, right? There are three, these three transmission lines are grounded by the help of capacitors, right? This capacitor which is responsible for grounding line A is called as CAG. The capacitor which is responsible for grounding line B is called as CBG, and likewise the third one will be represented as CCG, right? Likewise, where the capacitor between the line A and line B, it is called as CAB. The other one between line B and C is represented as CBC, and the third one CCA will be responsible for the capacitance across line A and line C, right? Therefore, this particular figure that I have shown in this slide is basically the figure of delta connection, right? But if we have to transform it into the Y connection or into the star connection, then what will happen? That the neutral point will pop in. It means that this neutral point, as you know, that the fundamental difference between the delta as well as Y connection is the presence of neutral point, right? So in this Y connection, we get this point N, right? Therefore we can say that from this structure of delta connection, we have transformed this structure of delta configuration into the star configuration, right? Therefore, when we have converted this structure of delta configuration into star configuration, what we get is the particular this transmission line, right, where we know that all these three transmission lines are basically grounded, but then the other ones, uh, when the neutral point is incorporated or taken into the account, then we can have this structure as CAN, this particular structure as CBN, and the last one as CCN, right? Therefore, if we want to find out the overall capacitance across the line A, we can be able to find it out by taking the sum of CAG and CAN, right? Likewise, if we want to find out the value of capacitance across line B, then capacitance across line BG, and capacitance across BN will be summed up in order to find the C value of CB. Likewise, if we want to find out the value of CC, it can be found out by taking the sum of CCG and CCN here in this case. Okay, therefore, why now I will explain that what type of insulator or dielectric we have used. We often use the air as the dielectric or an insulator. Let me tell you that what is the difference between the dielectric or an insulator, that a dielectric can be polarized but an insulator cannot be polarized, right? This is the fundamental difference between dielectric or an insulator, right? Therefore, we have introduced the air as an insulator or a dielectric material. It is basically introduced for affecting the conductivity, right? As in the world, in the universe, there is no dielectric that has been considered as an ideal one, right? Therefore, some of the current will be flown outside this dielectric or insulator. If whenever we have incorporated an insulator between any sort of material, we always watch that there exists some sort of leakage current from that insulator, right? There is no ideal insulator that has been invented till date into the world or into the universe, right? There is always some sort of leakage current, it has always some value. Therefore, this particular leakage current that pops out of an insulator, it is represented by value of G, right? Or we can represent it by a resistance applied parallel to the capacitor, right? How? In this way, we have these three transmission lines which are grounded across through the capacitors, and these capacitors have the values as I have calculated in the previous slide. CA is equal to CAN plus CAG, CB will be equal to CBG plus CBN, and CC will be equal to CBN plus CBG, right? Therefore, in this case, we can get the value of this particular conductance or this particular resistance. In that particular conductance is represented by this R, which is applied parallel to this capacitance, right? So we have these three values of the uh, these three resistances which are applied parallel to the capacitors, and basically these three lines, these three resistances are showing the amount of conductance, right? Therefore, the overall model of the transmission line will become just like this. As I have told you earlier, that resistance and inductance, right? Resistance and inductance, R and L, both these parameters are always in series, right? Whereas the other two parameters, capacitance and conductance, these two parameters are applied in shunt, right? Therefore, the series connection as well as the shunt connections, they will form a proper transmission line, this structure this structure is basically having the length L, and this structure is basically applicable for a unit length, right? What is meant by unit length? That this structure is for the unit length of, if I suppose that this unit length and this structure is there existing for 1 meter, then and we have the transmission line of x meters, therefore x such uh, x such networks will be cascaded to form a transmission line. Okay, therefore we can say that such networks can be cascaded to form a proper transmission line. Okay, so therefore we can get the overall model of a transmission line by applying this, but most of the times we ignore this value of conductance, and hence we cannot be considering the conductance like in the short transmission lines we often ignore capacitance also. But how these values are taken into account or how these values are removed, I will tell you in the next lecture. So we will continue with the next lecture soon. Thank you very much for the today's lecture.